Hey everyone, welcome back again to another session of the Tech Talk. This time we've got a really different segment for you. We've got one senior who is not from the computer science department, and he's one person I heard of while actually searching on the internet who are the most successful people in IEST, and a Quora review popped up where it listed that there's this person called Avik Ghosh, and he's done a lot of things in college in terms of research papers, in terms of extracurriculars. So I thought, okay, wow, who's this person? I really want to know. And today I finally got the opportunity to interview him and get to know his journey. And the best part is that the things he has to say are not limited to just one department. He is from the engineering department, but the advice and the journey he has had is relevant for all the other departments. So I hope this is an invitation for everybody else also in the college to come and be part of this journey in knowing more and more about the opportunities that we have after college. So a little bit about Avigda. He was the general secretary of Euphony in his second year itself. I think that's something I've heard of for the first time, that somebody is head of a club as big as Euphony in their second year itself. And we'll get to know a little bit more about that. Then he was also the assistant general secretary of the student senate when he was in his third year. And of course, the best part of it all, after graduating from mechanical engineering from IIST in 2019, he's now a PhD. He's studying for PhD in mechanical engineering at the University of California, San Diego. So I think that's a really wonderful place to be in, and he's going to tell us all about that. So enough of me talking. How are you, Avigda? I can't wait to get you talking.
I mean, that was a very kind introduction. I mean, thank you so much for it. I'm absolutely very, very glad to be part of this. I checked out the other videos and I think you guys are doing an amazing job. You should
Thank
keep
you.
on doing this. And well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. And things are going pretty okay right now for me, with the COVID and everything taking place. The work is a bit slow, but I finished my coursework and I'm getting back home this December. So hopefully I'll get to meet you guys too. Hopefully, if there's college in December, January, whatever. So yeah.
Right, definitely. We're really looking forward to that meeting. And let's get into it. And before that, I'll tell you that Avigda is a person who is very passionate. And when a passionate person comes across something that he's very passionate about, it's a lethal combination. So Avigda is really passionate about renewable energy. So what he's studying right now at UCST is related to something called solar cooling. So Avigda, I'll let you talk more about this yourself. Where is it that you got the idea of renewable energy, and where is it that you got the passion? How did it all start, and how do you start exploring?
Okay. The thing is that when I started working, I mean, basically the passion about renewable energy started somewhere in class 7 or 8. Basically, when I first heard, about warming and stuff, and I was very politically inclined. I was very politically aware in that sense because my dad and my brother always used to talk about politics. So I knew that America was tinkering with the Middle East. Of course, they had not discovered fracking back then. So there's always some tinkering going on in the Middle East, and America is trying to keep the Middle East unstable for oil. So maybe that kind of really interested me, and that's why I chose mechanical engineering as a discipline too. And even my dad is a mechanical engineer. He's from BE College, so I'm a second generation being. Maybe that helped too. So the passion of working with renewable energy came from there. And about higher studies, once I did my first research project, which we'll talk about later maybe. It just followed a natural progression from there. I loved it so much that this is all that I wanted to do. I can't do anything else.
Right, right. So like you mentioned, after your research project, you got into the whole idea that this is exactly what you have to do. How did that journey start? How did the research journey start? And what are the things that you explored when you got those inclinations?
Right. So the thing is, it started in a very funny way. We were taught thermodynamics by Professor Shomnath Chakraborty. He retired, so bad luck that the guys from mechanical engineering won't have him now. But he was so good that I really liked thermodynamics, and I walked up to one young professor of the department. He was not a hotshot at all, like Professor Aurithro Ganguly, and asked him that, you work in the field of solar energy. I want to work in the field of solar energy. And I had an idea. The only idea that I had of working in solar energy was that, so I told him I want to design a car with solar panels on top. I mean,
Right.
that it was as stupid as that. And Oyster only told me that, no, you can't work on that. I mean, that is not tenable at all. So he gave me a paper to review on the first day, and the paper was related to solar cooling.
Right.
And he told me that, come back when you read that paper. So I went back, and somehow I started. This is something which I had never done before, reading a research paper direct from scratch. It was very difficult initially, but I, kept on doing it, and somewhere I fell in love with it, and even the greater than life idea that I'm working in the field of renewable energy, working in the field of solar cooling, and we use so much of energy in air conditioning. Maybe if I'm this research project is not only about me, it has a bigger role to play. I sort of made my heart buddhu like that,
Okay.
so like the three idiots stuff. I mean, maybe all of it was not true, but it helped me give my own validation in the sense that I thought I was doing something really important, and maybe that pushed me along during the hard times. When
Right, right.
yeah.
So I think a very important point that you mentioned that you know there is something that you started just loving, and like you started feeling as if there is a larger than life purpose in it, and like that's the same thing, Dil Ko Buddhu Banana from Three Idiots, like you mentioned. So
Yeah.
I think that's a very important driving factor when you're doing something, to remain motivated and to continue doing that and get through the hard parts as well. So like obviously, because research, like you said, is not so easy. I mean, reading a research paper, getting through it, and then finally getting a conclusion, working forward. How did you, like, how was that process like, and when did that ultimate breakthrough happen that ultimately led to this success? And would you like to describe that experience of what happened when, and what was the timeline like, and what kind of efforts did you have to make for that?
Right. So the previous thing I was talking about, I walked up to Aditya Ganguly in the month of December 2016, so after my third semester, and I
Right, right.
read a bit of the about the papers and the field, and I kept and sort of fell in love with it in December. But I did not do the work up till the summer break after second year. My actual
Okay.
research work. So I knew about the field. I was reading papers here and there, but like it was only during the summer when I like full force I started working with it. I read about 50, 60 research papers, so had a pretty good idea about what went on in the field from the 1950s or 60s. So I had a very good idea of that, and reading research papers are very important for that. Like you have to keep on, you'll not understand everything, nobody understands everything, we have to keep on trying. And maybe that is where that having this larger than life perspective helped in that sense. And I thought of many ideas that we could do. Professor Ganguly gave me one paper, but I read many, and I thought this, we can do this to improve this most current system that they have published. And thankfully, one of them was scientifically tenable. And the professor
Okay.
said, "Yeah, thankfully, just out of sheer luck, that I suggested something which was sounded okay to the professor." And he said, "Let's do it." And when we did it, ultimately, and we wrote a paper about, we wrote a paper. We did the research, we wrote a paper, and then we wanted to submit it somewhere. And Professor Ganguly, we had no idea how good it was in that sense back then. So Professor Ganguly told me, let's publish it in a Kolkata conference. And I told him that no, let's go for the Solar Energy Journal. The Solar Energy Journal is a pretty big journal in the field of solar energy, and we
Right.
both didn't know what was going to happen. Professor Ganguly told me, okay, you want to submit in solar energy? Maybe it'll just get rejected. Let's do it anyway. I said, okay, fine, let's do it anyway. And that is when the big that the paper got accepted in solar energy, and that is where that is the, I think, the highlight of my career. That even in that second year research paper in solar energy, that is what got me into UCST. Any
Wow.
day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, I obviously, getting to that research paper and coming up with that scientifically tenable idea would have been a very gruesome process. So, like, what was your effort like at that time? Like that summer you were talking about, when after your second year, when you actually did all this work. So, about what was the kind of effort you put in, like reading the research paper? Like, what was that? I mean, the numbers or something?
So yeah, I read about 50 to 60 research papers,
My God.
in that field, and yeah, that was what I did the entire day. Like my entire summer, I worked about 10, 12 hours every day, and it was not out of sheer love, out of absolute sheer love. I mean, I didn't
My
feel
God.
like work, because I was too young to know that about publishing and everything. I just wanted to know and wanted to see if something works. I had no idea about publishing. It's only after I did the research, then and wrote a paper in that sense, and then I knew about the nuances of publishing in a journal, in a conference. I didn't know anything, but yeah, maybe it helped in that sense that I didn't know and just wanted to work. Maybe that helped too. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I think the driving factor for you has been the factor of meaning. You had a sense of meaning and sense of purpose that, okay,
Yeah.
there's a reason behind which I'm doing this. So it did not matter to you what it actually led to, but it was just fulfilling in itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
I was too
That's
young even to
beautiful.
know what it meant. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really
Yeah.
great to hear. Right. So after you found this sense of purpose, and after you'd read so much about it, after you'd made this research paper that got finally accepted into solar energy, you obviously knew that you wanted to go for higher studies. So after that, what was your procedure like? Like, what were the things you were thinking about? What were the things that you tried for? What are the things that one needs to do once one realizes that they have to go or they want to go for a master's or a PhD?
Right. So yeah. After my second year, I realized that I want to go for a PhD. I can't do anything else. I'll only do this. So the next important thing that I did was applying for internships after my third year, and I was quite lucky to. I think research internships really help in that sense. Even if you
Okay.
want to go for an MS, research internships I believe helps more than industrial internships, at least in India. Okay, so I was accepted in the Surge program at IIT Kanpur, and there also I had the privilege of working with a B college alumni who let me
Okay.
work on my own thing, who let me work on extension of my previous project.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, the project proposal, he accepted my project proposal and said let's work on this. So I worked very hard during the after my summer third year too, and I wrote another paper. But this time it was not as natural because I knew what was publishing, what was all the tricks and trade of the thing, that this is publishable, this is not publishable, which was not there the first time around.
Right.
Yeah, so I worked then too, so that I could have a strong recommendation letter. So yeah, that would be my advice, that once you decide that you want to go for a PhD, maybe you decide in sometime in your second year or third year, go for a very strong internships. There are very good internship programs like MyTax internship in Canada, or SN in America, or some in France, as I guess Campus France. These are the like the absolute cream internships. Try to go for them. If you
Okay.
can't get them, try for internships in India, IAS, the Indian Academy of Sciences, Surge, Spark,
Right.
whatever. Try these. Try to work really hard, work well. Sometimes you'll always not get to work on the topic that you love. Maybe sometimes you'll just get to work with the professor's topic. But whatever you put in your best, get really good recommendations, and
Right.
then give the GRE TOEFL and start applying and hope for the best. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay.
Right.
So the most important point that I got from this answer was that having a research internship is very helpful, and
Yeah. Right.
even more helpful than any industrial internship. Right. So that research internship, obviously it gives you an insight into the kind of work you'll have to do later on if you want to go for higher studies. And along with that, of course, it gives you some recommendations, which will obviously boost up your profile. Right. So apart from that, is there anything else that one needs to keep in mind in their journey of college while preparing for MS?
Right. So I think the single most important thing is maintaining a good GPA.
Right. Okay.
However much we try to deny it, maintaining a good GPA is the single most important thing that will get you a good MS or a PhD program. I did not have it in that sense, but if you do not have it, it's still fine. But you have to make up for it later elsewhere. So I made it up in research, but having a very good GPA, I would say the higher the better. Above 9 is great. Above
Right.
8.5 is
Okay.
decent. Try to get it, and there's no substitute for good grades, because it doesn't show intelligence maybe, but it shows one thing, that's perseverance and the ability to work hard continuously, which is very important in any program that you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can be brilliant, but if you're not persevere, you're not going to go anywhere, and they know that. The admissions committee know that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think that's a very important point that you mentioned, that even if we don't feel like the GPA is a good indicator of how smart we are, it definitely indicates one very important thing, and that is our grit and our perseverance. So, okay, that's a very important point. And every one of us who does not like to study for our college exams can take some really good advice from that. So, thanks for that. And apart from that, after we take care of these things, research internships and GPA, and like you mentioned, GRE and TOEFL. Could you elaborate on kind of timeline of how and when one should start doing these particular things, and then up till the application process, and even after that, whatever things are important?
Right. So after I'll tell you about my timeline, which is a bit delayed, but I would advise people to start a bit earlier. So after you come back from your internship after your third year, start studying for GRE in the month of August, September, and I'm assuming here that you have a pretty good grasp of English language. If not, then you have to go, maybe you have to put two months of more effort.
Okay.
Because the English in GRE is pretty stupid in that sense that even Americans don't use that English. It's
Okay.
too tough. So you have never heard of this, or nobody has heard of these words. So the math part is really easy. It will take 2-3 days max. But the English part is a bit difficult. I took about 25, 26 days to prepare for it. The GRE, you have to learn up words, and absolutely nonsensical words, but whatever, you do that. So people who have a good grasp of English, like mostly from people from convent educated schools, I guess, would do. 1 month is absolutely enough. And Once you start studying, you realize that these words I don't know. I need much more time to mug up. If for those who are not that conversant, maybe take another month. Okay, but don't stress too much about it. Like, I think anything above 320 in GRE is absolutely fine. Anything
Okay.
above 320 is absolutely fine.
Right.
And TOEFL, you don't need to prepare much. Take the TOEFL after GRE. Take it a week after. Schedule it a week after GRE. 1 week is more than enough for TOEFL. Absolutely more than enough. Take that practice
Right.
test and you'll be okay. But don't stress too much about these exams. Even American colleges realizing these exams are pretty shoddy and they don't judge anything. But don't stress too much. And anything about 320 is fine in GRE.
Okay, okay. So very important point to note that a lot of us have the impression that we need to prepare for many months for GRE, but there are, like Avigda said, there are some words that you need to memorize, and even if you don't have a very good English background, 2 months or maximum 3 months would be enough to
Yeah.
prepare consolidated for GRE, and then 1 week after that for TOEFL. But important is practice tests. Like practice tests are good to get you a hang of that, and don't take too much stress about this because American colleges also realize the partial redundancy of these exams. I would take the liberty to say. And apart from that, Avigda, what else? Like, when should one start applying for colleges, and what should one keep in the application to make it a beautiful one?
Right. Your research, your GPA sorted, your research sorted, your recommendation letters sorted. You try to get recommendation letters from the professors that you have closely worked with. And I realized that people from Sheepwood would not have very, very way recommendation letters, and like our recommenders would not be top shot of the best in the world. It doesn't matter. It's about
Okay,
what they write about you. Sometimes it matters who they are, but what they write about you matters more. So try to
right,
get those and start applying by the month of the October, and late October start applying. October, November, and by December 15th, I guess most of the applications closes. So yeah, that is the
right.
timeline for applying. And write a very good statement of purpose. Do not take the help of any Princeton review or stuff like that for GRE
Okay,
preparation or statement. Write your own original statement of purpose. Okay, and review it from seniors. Send it to seniors who have gone abroad. They'll review it for you. But write your own thing and pour your heart out. Don't try to be all smart about it in that sense. Don't use your brain too much. Pour your heart out there.
okay.
In your statement of purpose.
Okay, right. Very important point. Do not get your statement of purpose written in a template format. Okay, these are the things that will get you selected. Pour your heart out and make it individual, make it original, and do it yourself. Pour your heart out. Right. Thanks for that. And okay, next. Next, I would like to ask you a little bit about your experience about the application process. Like you said, your GPA wasn't very good, and GPA is a very important factor in the selection process. So, like, how was
Right.
it for you? Where all did you apply, and what kind of response did you get, and ultimately, how did you end up at UCSC at such a coveted program?
Right. I'll share my GPA. My GPA was 8.25 when I started applying, and this is not very good at all for a PhD program at least. So what you do for PhD programs is, this is a very important question. Where do you apply? Because labs are good everywhere. So I started, searching for professors in the same field of solar cooling, and emailed them. Kept on emailing them. And only one of them reached back to me from Wisconsin Madison and then told me that he doesn't have a vacancy. So I
Oh,
got no response from anyone. I still applied that because I know that if I don't try, I'll lose 100%. I still applied. I had very little hope, very, very little hope that somebody would accept me. I applied to 6 colleges. And UCSD is the only one where I got in. So I applied to all the 6 colleges, getting no positive response from any professor. Okay, normally what happens in PhD programs, you get somewhat a positive response and you then apply to that college. Because the professors tell you that, okay, I'll recommend you, please apply to our program. And then my professor, basically, Jan, he actually incidentally turned out to be the associate editor of Solar Energy, the journal
oh,
which I published in my second year. And he still publishes there. So I think that is the only thing that worked in that sense. And Jan really liked my profile. And he emailed me back that, okay, that you have worked in this, but I now work in the field of electric, so renewable energy integration with the electricity grid. Would you like to apply? Would you like to have an interview with me? So I had that, and Jan emailed me back after 15 days that he's taking me in. So that
Wow.
was my journey. Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing. That's
pretty
really
lucky,
amazing.
pretty lucky. Yeah, pretty lucky also in some sense.
I would like to tell you also at this point that in many of the stories in our previous tech talks, also, there have been instances just like yours also, but of a different nature, that just making the effort at some point in life got them to some opportunity that they never knew would arise, and it clicked
Absolutely,
and got them to where they are right now. So
absolutely.
it's really amazing how it all happens. Like I am reminded of Steve Jobs at this point when he said, when you look ahead, you never know where you're going to end up, but when you look back and you can trace the dots, that okay, this is why it happened. So like that's something that I found really beautiful.
I love
So
that Steve Jobs speech, the Stanford commencement speech. I
right,
memorized it by heart, absolutely by heart. I loved Steve Jobs' speeches.
my
I
God,
have the
my
speech
God,
memorized by heart.
that's amazing. That's
Dots
amazing.
always
I'm just
connect looking
finding that out.
backwards. Yeah.
Right. That's really great to hear. Okay. So after that, Avikta, you finally got into UCSD, and now you're pursuing what you love, and you're doing work in solar cooling, and hopefully you will change the world one day. And we like to see you on the front page of Time or something. So how does it feel? I mean, how is life there?
The thing is, just one thing I'd like to clarify. I don't work in solar cooling right now. My
Okay.
professor used to work in a similar field, but I now work in a more electric controls and optimization related field. But it's really related to renewable energy
Okay.
integration into the electricity grid.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, but more electrical engineering stuff, kind of. But here things are very interdisciplinary.
Right. Right.
But I absolutely love the work here. I love the work environment. Everybody is so professional. Everybody treats you fairly like a colleague, and it's very fair here. But about my personal life, it's a bit lonely. You'll never get the BE college experience here. So I get a bit lonely at times, which is also a good thing because it makes me remember that what wonderful 4 years I had. So professional life was it's absolutely fine. And if you are not an extrovert, things will get a bit lonely here, but that's fine. You learn to deal with it. But there are also a
Right.
few B college seniors everywhere you go, so you'll be okay.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's about life at UCSD. So now let's explore a little about the life you had at BE College, which you missed so much.
Yeah.
So coming to euphony, how was that experience? I mean, a lot of people say that you should have a lot of extracurriculars in your bag while applying to programs abroad. So how would you say that experience helped you, and what all did you learn from that experience? What all did you experience over there?
Right. So one thing I'd like to clarify is that probably it won't be a good idea to do something just for the sake of applying. That's what I think. The journey of Euphony was basically the seniors in Euphony. The closest seniors to us were fourth yearites, like who passed out in 2016 when
Okay.
we got into the college in 2015, and it doesn't normally happen like that. The fourth years having such a connect with first yearites, but we had that. We were very lucky to have that. And when they passed out, like it absolutely felt like a personal loss kind of thing. And they entrusted me with the responsibility of being the GS. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that skipping third year rights and fourth year rights, they would give responsibility to a second year guy. I was very scared that more people won't listen to me.
Naturally.
But I had these amazing seniors, amazing friends and juniors who came in, your band from 2016, and it continued. And the only dream which I had when I was in Euphony was, one, increase the participation of girls, because girls didn't used to come to clubs that much. Okay, and it still happens sometimes. And second thing was that I wanted to make Oikotan like absolutely grand, like wanted to
Right.
have this very vibrant music scene in Shibpur. It was sort of there, but I was glad that I was a part of it. And when basically Oikotan 3 happened, which was my first year, it was big and grand, and alumni came, they were saying great things. Felt really good about this entire experience. And I, you know, I, and used to play the guitar, but when I started organizing, I couldn't. But it was good to take a step back and see the stage when the stage was all set and the lights were all going. Somewhere inside, I felt that everything is worth it. Like this effort is absolutely worth it, and everybody loved it. So yeah, so that was one good experience, and learn to talk diplomatically with people, learn to keep the ego aside, keep the team together, do whatever it takes to make the event happen. So these things, I learned about life. I don't know how much they helped me in grad school, but I have absolutely no idea. But they would help me later in my life. That's for sure. And I built some amazing relationships. during that phase too. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's really wonderful. I mean, the kind of things you described, those relationships, and then the way the life skills you learned, and the idea of taking a step back and letting others do their job when you're the one giving them that stage, and
Yeah.
then finally hearing all that appreciation for the work you've done. So I think that's really wonderful, and I'm so happy that you could get that experience, and so thankful that you could give that experience to this college, and people after you have grown on that, and made that
Yeah,
even.
that's the most amazing part. I mean, it's growing by leaps and bounds when I see Euphony today. It's absolutely amazing.
Right, right.
Our
So that
seniors started it, we sort of continued it, and juniors are absolutely blowing it out of proportion. So amazing. Yeah, feels really good.
absolutely right. So that's really good to talk about. And the next aspect of your journey was the post of Assistant General Secretary at the Student Senate. So, any highlight of that particular time that you would like to share that really touched you?
uh, I think the highlight of in the student senate work would be when we actually protested and without caring about anything. When and and our demand was that to increase the fees of mess workers, because what do they earn, like 2,000, 3,000? They take food, but 2,000, 3,000, you can't support families using it. So they were not paid by the minimum wage laws of the government of India, I guess. And we actually made a protest, and where people came in, we had a good general body meeting. And the highlight of it would be that when I started popularizing this thing, that okay, we are having this discussion, it won't be that we won't boycott ties or anything. After classes, we would come and sit at Netaji Bhavan and we talk about it. So I went to hostel 9, so it was a first year hostel. And I didn't know this woman who used to work in hostel 9, and she stood in that corner when I was inspiring juniors, please come to that protest and we'll talk about it. And after my speech ended, she just started clapping, and that was, I guess, the most biggest point in my career. In that sense, is that I could make that person happy, that she felt cared for at that point of
Wow.
time. And yeah, so, and also another thing is that when we were related to this movement only, I used to stay in hostel 16 then, and there was Bishuda, whom I used to buy cigarettes from. Bishuda told me that he'll never forget our batch for what we are doing. Of course, it didn't succeed. I mean, the movement, flattened out after a few days, because the people who were the mess workers, they themselves, got politically inclined, and they said that, oh, let's walk away from it. But it didn't happen, in the way we envisioned it to be. I don't know if their wages have been increased, but at least we brought their issues to concern. People started talking about it. I think that is a huge problem in Shibpur, is people are very less aware about things. I think that incident, maybe they got people talking. Then yeah, maybe that is one highlight, would be how the mess workers felt about that and how they told me. And again, I thought that everything is worth it. All the hard work put in to get the students, and miss classes sometime, is worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Wow. So, Avikta, you've had a really happening life, haven't you? I mean,
Yeah.
euphony, then this protest, and the the movement with being the AGS, and then of course your research work, and then finally getting into UCSD. Wow, I mean that's a lot to learn from. So, what would you like to say to your juniors or the all the other people listening to this session about getting into a master's program or doing anything in terms of getting excellence? Because you seem to have got a lot of it. So what are your basic principles that you would follow for succeeding and getting excellence in what you do, and even slightly specifically to MS as well after that?
So I don't exactly know about succeeding in that sense, but I would definitely recommend one thing, is that take whatever decision that you have to take in terms of your career, your relationship, your family, whatever. Take it from the heart, and I mean, don't let your mind tinker around too much, because if you will fail, you'll take decisions, you'll fail, of course. Sometimes you'll at least know that you took the decision from your heart. And sometimes
Right.
it is necessary कि dil ko buddhu bana ke rakho. It helps, it really helps. But yeah, take whatever decision that you take it from your heart. Don't think about it too much. Don't think from here too much. Think from here.
Okay.
That is, yeah, that would be my only thing that I can say in that sense. And also for MS, one thing you pointed out, I should point out this: PhD abroad is completely funded, but if you are planning for an MS, you need to have a loan of 30-40 lakhs, which you can. So when you try to get the visa, even if you get an admit, they would want to see your tuition fees and everything is covered for the first year. So a loan of 30 in the tune of 30 to 40 lakhs is required for MS programs. So make sure that you do that too. But for PhD programs, it's not required. It's completely funded. So that's one good thing about PhD programs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a very important point also, to have a certain amount of loan that one has to take, because the programs are not completely funded, unlike the PhD programs, which are funded completely. Okay, that's very important. So like, Avikta, this session has been a little brief, but like, of course, there's a lot to take away from it, because we mentioned a lot of points in just a few minutes. And finally, with that, I think I would like to ask you for your final words of wisdom. I think you mentioned it somewhere in between, but I would like you to say it as, the grand ending to this really wonderful session that I thoroughly enjoyed. So, what are your final words of wisdom? What is your final advice for your listeners?
Again, the final advice would of course be like follow your heart, and whenever you try to do something, don't think about I'll tell this from my experience at least, that what will be the result of it. Just do it for the love of it, and trust me, it will work out. And even if it doesn't, you will know that you enjoyed it at least while doing it. Don't think, okay, I have to do this. Don't be so calculative in life. Okay, even with higher studies, do it for the love of it. It will work out. If not in this way, in that way, it will work out.
Right. I think if we can just believe what Avikda has said right now, that we can just do it for the love of it, and then it will work out somewhere or the other. I think it will be an amazing weight of our heads that we can just do what we like, and ultimately something will work out. So thanks, Avikda, for saying that, and thanks for being at the position you are, to have the audacity to be able to say that and have us believe it. So thanks a lot again. And with that, I think I would like to say goodbye. Any final things you would like to say?
No, I guess. I mean, thank you so much for having me. It's absolutely a pleasure, and you guys should keep on doing this. I'm so glad and absolutely humbled that you guys have,
thanks.
had me in this session, and hopefully it'll be of some help to our juniors.
Definitely, I definitely believe that 100%. It has been of help to me, and definitely it will help our juniors as well, and all listeners of this session. So thanks, Avikta, for taking out your time. I know it's 3:30. I think 3:30 in the morning at that time. So thanks
BE
for
College has taught me how to stay awake at night. BE College has taught me, so I'm perfectly fine.
Right. Definitely, we do share that trait in us, all the beings. Right. So thanks, Avikta. Thanks once again, and hope we meet sometime soon. Bye bye.
Absolutely. Bye. Bye.